So about Shigaraki, actually before I say anything, if you somehow didn't see the latest episode of My Hero Academia, just stop the video, do yourself the favor of watching the episode first, then you can come back and watch this video, because this is honestly the best episode of the season so far. So if you have not watched it yet, proceed with caution. Alright, so back to what I was saying. Well, first I just want to say this, shout out to the voice actor of Shigaraki, for both the child and adult voice actors. They did a really good job on selling his character, because the voice acting in this episode is the big reason of why I liked it so much. But yeah, back on the main topic for real this time. If you remember how the previous episode ended, it ended with the real Shigaraki decaying the building from the base level, and Destro, Twice, and Giron all fall from the top floor. Twice and Giron survive, so everything is fine on their end, but so does Destro, and that's when things switch over to focusing on Shigaraki, the real one this time, not the clone that Twice made. They start fighting, and honestly Shigaraki got pretty messed up. Destro wasn't really getting serious about the fight. Yeah, he held Shigaraki by his arms, but in a certain way so that he couldn't activate his decay quirk, and was breaking his hand, which is when somehow Shigaraki pulls out the decay anyways, but only manages to crack a tip of his finger a little bit, but he throws him away so he doesn't do any more damage, which is when we see the payoff of Shigaraki's training. He moves way faster than he was before, and he looked like he was moving subconsciously, because all we could see while he was in this state was the whites of his eyes, so everything that he was doing was just on pure instinct. But it's not like Destro was suddenly getting overwhelmed. He was surprised at the sudden power up, but didn't see it as a threat to having him actually beat him, but he uses his strongest moves with the intention of finishing the fight, and it sends him flying through the air. But then at that same moment, we see memories of his childhood and what happened to him when he was growing up. Before I get to that though, remember to like and subscribe for future videos. At the start of the flashback, we see Shigaraki at the age of 5 being disciplined by his dad, because apparently there was a rule that they can't talk about heroes in his house. He apparently had allergies too, and that it made him very itchy. Multiple times he had been disciplined for his dream of wanting to be a hero, and every time his mom and grandparents would come for him, but never really reached out to help him out, which is when we see Hana, Shigaraki's sister, and she shows him a photo in their dad's office, which is where we see their dad and Nuna Shimura, which is when he learns that their dad is her son, and by extension Shigaraki is her grandson. Ecstatic about the news, he went out to play with his dog, which is where we see a glimpse of his quirk, where it slightly decays some of the tennis ball, but we don't really see much else after this, because that's when his dad shows up, knowing that he came into his office and saw the picture, because Hana lied and told him that he had snuck in and showed her the picture. Infuriated, he grabs Shigaraki and tells him that that is not her grandma, but a lady that just abandoned her kid, which is where we could see why he hates heroes so much. With Nuna being a hero, she had less time to spend with him, and slowly he grew hatred towards her for not spending enough time with him. He had then slapped Shigaraki with the stress he had built up from the hatred he had for his grandma, but later on while looking at the picture that Hana showed Shigaraki, he had regretted what he did to Shigaraki. And while that's happening, Shigaraki's in the yard with his dog crying, and his allergy looked like it had gotten a lot worse because he was scratching himself very aggressively, which is when he accidentally uses his quirk on his dog, instantly killing it. And at the same time, Hana conveniently came down to the yard right after this happened. She had come to apologize for lying what happened, but after seeing their dog in a pile of mud, she was terrified and runs for her life. But with all this stuff happening at once, he couldn't get his words out, and he grabbed her before she could run away, which ends up with her being decayed as well. And at the time, he said he thought that a villain was attacking them. At this time, her mom and grandparents see what he did to Hana, but he said he thought at that point he understood in the back of his head that he was the cause of it, and that somewhere in his heart he was glad that it was happening, because after all this time they didn't help him at all, which is when he decays him as well by touching the ground. And from all the noise, his dad leaves his office and comes out to the yard, seeing all of his family dead, and Shigaraki tries to apologize to him, but his dad hits him with some gardening tool, which is where we see he had a real intent to kill this time, so he gripped his dad by his face and decayed him as well, and he ended up destroying the entire property. But Shigaraki mentions that he felt an extreme amount of pleasure when he killed his dad, and that he had wanted this to secretly happen, and his allergy that made him rich was gone, and that's where his backstory ends. So yeah, that was quite a backstory. I've seen a lot of people pointing this out, but in a lot of ways he was similar to Deku when he was younger. They both had aspired to be heroes and both looked up to All Might heavily, but the thing that made the difference between them was the card that they were dealt in life. Deku was fortunate enough to have a mom that supported his dream and did all she can to help him, while on the other hand Shigaraki didn't have anyone to support him at all. Although he was in a house full of people, he had felt isolated not only by his dad but his other relatives as well, because no matter how many times his dad had punished him from his own trauma, none of his relatives tried to help him out at all. And with that being built up over the years, that had caused an outburst all at once, being represented by his quirk. I think this clears up something that wasn't so clear before. It wasn't clear if people's quirks were decided by birth or if it was influenced by early childhood, but it looks like it is a mix of both, because from all the years he had built up hatred towards his family for not helping him out, he wanted them to disappear from his life, which translated into his quirk being able to disintegrate things. But then you have characters like Bakugo. His quirk is the way it is because his parents' quirks combined makes explosions, so I guess it depends on whichever has a bigger influence on the person, and in Shigaraki's case it was definitely his upbringing. That's basically all I had to say though, so if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe for future content. Peace.